Okay, I want to go through a few examples of finding values of trig functions, and I have a little chart up here, and this is something that you're going to have to know, that you should know, the values of the sine, cosine, and tangents of these special angles, which we've talked about before. Pi over 6, or 0, which is 0 degrees, pi over 6, or 30 degrees, pi over 4, or 45 degrees, pi over 3, or 60 degrees, pi over 2, or 90 degrees. And these are the values, sine of these angles and cosine of these angles. And one easy way to remember it, you can make a chart like this. Line up the values, so the values of x. And then in the sine column, square root of 0 over 2, square root of 1 over 2, square root of 2 over 2, square root of 3 over 2, and square root of 4 over 2. This will be 2 over 2, which will be 1. And for cosine, you just do the reverse. Notice everything's exactly inverse: 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So everything just goes the opposite, the exact opposite way with cosine. So these are the values that you have to memorize, must memorize, are in here. The sine and cosine for the first quadrant. Tangent, well, remember, tangent is sine over cosine. And of course, remember your reciprocal identities. Cosecant equals 1 over sine. Secant equals 1 over cosine. And cotangent is 1 over tangent. And so 0 over 1, 1/2 over square root of 3 over 2 will be square root of 3 over 3. Square root of 2 over 2 divided by square root of 2 over 2 is going to be 1. Square root of 3 over 2 times 2 is going to be square root of 3. And of course, tangent of pi over 2 is undefined because it's 1 over 0. So if you memorize these, you can get tangent, cosecant, secant, and cotangent by just knowing these identities. Okay, so I assume by now you're pretty familiar with finding reference angles. I showed you how to do that in a previous video, and so I'm just going to go ahead trying to find the values of these functions, sine of pi over 4. Well, okay, first I have to realize, I got to figure out which quadrant this is in. Now 5 pi over 4, 5 over 4, so that's going to be between 1 and 1.5. Therefore, this is in quadrant 3. It's between pi and 3 pi over 2. Now, in quadrant 3, what sine is sine? What sign is sine? Well, quadrant 3, well, all students take calculus. Tangent is positive in quadrant 3. Sine is negative. Also, you can make a little diagram like this. Here's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and you see that y values are negative in quadrant 3, and sine is attached to y. Remember the video on unit circle. Sine is attached to y. Y is negative, so the sine is going to be negative. So this is going to equal negative sine. Now what's the reference angle? Well, it's third quadrant, so we're going to subtract pi from 5 pi over 4. So the reference angle is going to be pi over 4. This is the reference angle. And again, I showed you how to find these in a different video. Now comes a part where you have to know what's in this chart. Sine of pi over 4 is square root of 2 over 2. So negative sine pi over 4 is just negative square root 2 over 2. Okay, let's try another one here. Cosine 5 pi over 3. Okay, so again, let's figure out. So what quadrant is this in? 5 pi over 3, 5/3 is between 3 halves and 1. So pi over 3 is in the 4th quadrant. What sign does cosine have in the 4th quadrant? Well, in the 4th quadrant, x is positive and cosine is attached to x. Therefore, cosine is going to be positive. So there's not going to be a negative sign here. It's going to equal the cosine of whatever our reference angle is. And reference angle in quadrant 4, well, the reference angle, remember, is 2 pi minus 5 pi over 3. So it's 6 pi over 3 minus 5 pi over 3. And that's going to be pi over 3. Cosine pi over 3 is, that's right, 1/2. Okay, got a few more here. Hopefully you should be starting to get the idea. Tangent 5 pi over 6. Alright. Tangent 5 pi over 6. So now again, let's see what quadrant we're looking at here. 5 pi over 6. Well, that's less than pi, but it's greater than pi over 2. So this is in quadrant 2. Now, what's the reference angle? Well, actually, before we do that, tangent, again, let's look, quadrant 2. Sine is negative, sine is positive, and cosine is negative. Therefore, sine over cosine is going to be negative. So, in quadrant 2, tangent is less than, well, it's negative. So that's okay. Tangent is negative in quadrant 2. So we've just got to figure out the reference angle. Well, if it's quadrant 2, then the reference angle is going to be pi minus 5 pi over 6, which is 1 pi over 6, tangent pi over 6, so it's going to be sine pi over 6 over cosine pi over 6. If you didn't memorize, I mean, it's tangent of pi over 6 is square root of 3 over 3, but in case you forgot that, this is going to be 1/2 over square root of 3 over 2. I can write this as 1/2 times 2 over square root of 3. 2's cancel out, and we're left with negative 1 over square root of 3. And if I can just rationalize the denominator here, we've got just a little bit of room here. That's going to give us, oops, didn't mean to cross that out, square root of 3 over 3. Negative square root of 3 over 3. Okay, 2 more. Secant of 3 pi over 4. So now secant, remember secant is 1, secant is 1 over cosine. So this is going to be 1 over cosine 3 pi over 4. 3. That's supposed to be a 3. Pi over 4. Okay. So, what quadrant? Well, 3 pi over 4 is in the second quadrant. And the reference angle, because of the second quadrant, it's going to be pi minus 3 pi over 4. Which is going to be just pi over 4. What sign does cosine SIGN does cosine have in the second quadrant? Is cosine positive or negative in the second quadrant? X is negative, therefore cosine is negative. So this is going to be negative cosine pi over 4. Okay. Cosine pi over 4 is square root of 2 over 2. And so let's kind of put this together here. I have 1 times negative 2 over square root of 2. This equals negative 2 over square root of 2. And now let's rationalize the denominator. This becomes multiplied by square root of 2 over square root of 2. This becomes negative square root of 2. Okay. One last one we'll go through here, and that is cotangent of pi. Well, cotangent, again, this is 1 over tangent of pi. And what's tangent? Well, tangent is sine over cosine, so I could write this as 1 over sine pi over cosine of pi, or just simply cosine of pi over sine of pi. Now, cosine of pi, I'm going to draw quickly a graph here of a unit circle. Now, pi, the angle pi is halfway around the circle. So here you have 0, and here you have pi. This is the point, -1, 0 on the unit circle. Remember that y equals sine of x, or sine of theta. So cosine of pi is going to be the x value. Right? That's going to be the -1. Sine of pi is going to be the y value. That's 0. So you can see right away, -1 over 0. So cotangent of pi is undefined.